Hey, Carl. Welcome home.
Yeah.
Welcome, or at least welcome back to Texas.
Yeah.
Your first public appearance since becoming a Bassmaster Elite Series member. How you feel?
It's only really just it's sunk in the last couple of days. It was really interesting to see what happened. I've watched I've been around guys like Casey Stoner and talked to a lot of big sportsmen, and I've seen them when they've had a huge win. They don't celebrate or as much for a couple of days. They almost just crash out. And in my brain, I thought I was just going to be, pure ecstasy and just could not, we were going to celebrate and everything. And when it all came down to it, I made the elites. My body just almost went into shutdown, and I didn't do anything for a couple of days. But the last 2 days, my feet have really hit the ground, and it's sunk in, and I've just thinking in my head I've done it is a pretty cool feeling. So just riding the wave of the support on Facebook and social media, and just my friends and everything, family. It's been pretty cool.
Were you exhausted?
Yeah, it was just complete exhaustion from a mental side of things more than anything. I'd done that huge drive down from Sinclair, Detroit. I had 8 weeks of just non-stop driving and fishing, and I think that the mental side of things, I was running on pure adrenaline. I think for at least a week, and right near the end when I weighed in, I had nearly 12 pound, and everyone's saying I'm in, and I didn't want to know about it. I wanted to see, and then guys were weighing in front of me, and it was coming down to the wire, and I had a 2-hour wait for the tournament to finish, and it was really draining. And then it was just like, boom, I'm in, and it was a great feeling from then for about 20 minutes, just an emotional roller coaster, and then my body just said, you've had enough, and I pretty much slept for about 2 days, I reckon.
That's good. Yeah. I know when the tournament was over, you called me after Chris Bowes told you that you were in, and I couldn't talk. You couldn't talk. How emotional? What happened at that moment? How emotional were you? Because I know where I was, but I want to know where you were.
The emotional side of things really have been like that almost all year, from when I was 4th in the points after the Red River. And any time, every single day, I could think about the Arkansas River and that me making it, and I'd have to stop myself because I'd get so emotional about it. And from that morning to driving to the weigh-in, it just was such a build-up. I've never felt anything like it before in my life. And right up until on the water, that 5th fish that I upgraded, it was a 3-pounder, and I put it in the well and I upgraded, and I stood up and I started fishing again, and then I had to hold tears back on the water then, because I knew I'd probably done it then. And from then you just start thinking about your family, your friends, the people that had, none of this up until that stage was about me. It was, all I could think about was the people that had supported me, and my family and my friends and everyone, that I knew what it meant to them, and I wanted to do it so bad for them more than anything. And when I come back in, Fred was there at the front of the boat, and he's been such a huge influence for me, from the very first day I came to America. And I bagged my fish up and I put them in, and I stood up on the deck, and I just looked at him, and that was it. I just lost it, and I was halfway up to the weigh-in, and I had to run back and get my glasses. And I was.
You had to get your glasses.
Yeah, I had to get.
Oh, you didn't want somebody seeing you
Yeah,
cry.
I pretty much cried from the whole way bagging my fish to the weigh-in. Then I had to pull myself together and say, okay, I'm just weighing in fish just so I could talk on the stage. And then it was just, I'd almost, after that 20 minutes, people were ringing, calling me, my phone was just going crazy, and I was in, and I wasn't as ecstatic as I thought I'd be. I was just so drained, and all the emotion, everything just knocked the wind out of me, and I kind of didn't hardly, I talked to as many people as I could, and then I just had to put my phone away, and I never spoke to anyone for about 2 days until I came back to earth and realised what had just happened, and then I got to speak to everyone. So it was weird how it worked, but yeah, it was a crazy time.
Yeah, even Chris Bowes messed with you when he was coming out talking about the points. It's crazy how many people lived your journey, you know, and we're so excited for you. Even the tournament director knowing just how much it meant to you to mess with you at that final moment to tell you were third. You know, he kind of shook his head, whatever. Yeah. How was that?
It was good. I had Fred and a lot of guys around that everyone had almost gone, and I was waiting there just for the tournament to finish. And you know, Chris Bowes has been a great supporter of mine, and just to have people like that supporting me was really cool. And he walked out and he had the sheet of paper that had my fate on it, you know, and he's walking towards me, and he looked at me and just started to shake his head, but I could see he was smiling. And I said, "Don't do that to me." And he just handed me the piece of paper and said, "You're in." And that was when it all really hit me. And you know, the worst time for me was then I walked down from there. I walked down to my boat by myself to put my boat on, and I idled from there to around to my boat, about a 5-minute idle, and it was that was a pretty emotional time for me where it all just sunk in, and I'd done it, and it's hard to think of the 14 years or where I've come from, and a little country town in Queensland, Australia, fishing tiny little lakes for bass, and then I was idling in America, you know, just made the top 100 guys in the world, and the things I'd gone through. It's hard to just soak all that in and just really feel like what I'd actually accomplished. But each day goes on now. It's my body's recovered, and my mind and everything's back, and I'm just ecstatic. There's no really words that can explain how I really feel, but you can see by the support and my family and the messages and just talking to people what it means to them, and then you can times that by about 100 what it means to me.
I'm apologizing in advance for mentioning this, but you have to tell the world. There's a guy named Jeff Crete. He gave you a nickname this year.
Yeah.
Rue.
Yeah.
Tell me the story about that.
I don't know. We did the big trip across to Crete. Was funny because I'd never actually met him before, and then we did like a 12-hour trip across to the Bassmaster Classic, and within I think an hour of being in the truck, he like stopped me mid-sentence. He's like, "Just so you know, your name's Rue from now on. That's what I'm calling you." And I don't know where he got it from, but it was from Winnie the Pooh or something. But he said, "Rue's now my name," and that just stuck with him. But you and him and a few other guys he's changed over. They don't even know my first name. I don't think it's just Rue. And you know I had an older guy at Amistad when I caught him really good, and that last day he called me the Kangaroo Kid on stage, and then Chris Bowes said that. But it'll be interesting. I know Dave Mercer likes to give everyone nicknames on the stage, so as long as it's not the Thunder from Down Under, I'll be happy.
Yeah, that'll be good. I like Rue. Rue's good.
Yeah.
You got your mascot now. He's hooked you up with a
mascot.
mascot.
I got a little kangaroo sitting in the boat and that sort of thing. So that's really cool. But yeah, it's funny. I get along good with Creed, and we'll see if that sticks.
Yeah, 10 years from now, you'll thank him for the nickname.
Yeah, thanks, Creed.
Well, take me. I was fortunate enough to be in the lock with you, and it just worked out that way. You know, I think fate has its ways, but I was looking up the lock, and I was wanting it to close because I needed to get out of there. And I see this Aussie come idling in, slowing everybody down, and you tied up to me, and we talked, and you were calm, and but bring me through that moment, because there was a lot of key details in that moment that you prepared for.
Yeah.
And you were really calm.
Yeah.
But tell me why you were really calm.
Yeah, that was you know, probably 2009. I won the Australian Bass Grand Final, and for me back then, there was the exact same amount of pressure. For me, winning that Australian Bass Grand Final was going to be the start of my life. I could win the trip to America, and that was going to be my beginning of attempting to move to it. And back then, I had that same mindset. I knew what I was doing. I had the confidence. I knew everything that I was doing was correct, and I'd worked hard to that point. And I was actually had that same kind of calm, you know, just was enjoying the fishing, and I was kind of I don't know, it was a different mindset to stressing out. And I think this tournament I went in for the first time ever where I had that same, it didn't matter what got thrown at me. I knew I'd seen it before and I was going to handle it. It didn't matter. I didn't care what got thrown at me. It didn't matter what. I knew I was going to be able to handle it. So when I came into that lock, I had 5 fish, which I think calmed me down to say I had 5, even though I knew it wasn't a limit that was going to get the job done. And then the biggest thing is my trolling motor, the battery charger that we've found out now, actually a bank went out and didn't charge one of the third batteries and it went totally flat. And I don't think I mentioned that to you until about 5 minutes in the lock. And I remember just, oh yeah, my trolling motor's out. And you're like, what? That's the biggest thing. I said, yeah, trolling motor's not working. And to me, I was like, when it was doing that, I was like, well, is that all you got? You know, I was like, bring it on. I'll push through it. I know how to, I'm not going to let that, you know, stop me. In that kind of mindset, what I had then, not really thinking about it, but I knew that I was going to get it done. It was going to happen. For some reason, it wasn't like, oh, I hope, or man, I hope I can get this done. There was absolutely no doubt in my mind I was going to upgrade those 2 fish and it was going to happen ever till the last cast. And when you had that confidence and that kind of mindset, it just then any sort of panic or any sort of pressure was totally wiped away. And when I went out there and just did it, then it just happened, you know. And I don't know, it's a lifetime of experience. It's a lifetime of catching fish, and since I was 15 years old, fishing tournaments and working towards that exact goal. So, you know, it pretty much that last 2 hours was my entire life, from when I was 12 really just fishing to now. I'd worked to that last 2 hours. When I came out of that lock, I'd had 15 years of experience to work for that last 2.5 hours, and that's what got me through. No doubt it was a lifetime of experience and working towards that goal. So there was nothing that was uncommon to me, or there was nothing that I hadn't seen before, and that was the position I wanted to be in. I knew one day I was going to be in that position, and all the hard times and the things that have gone against me are the things that helped me through that last 2.5 hours. So the crazy part about it was that in my head, all year since I was 4th, I had this image of this GoPro playing on my console, and I caught my 10th fish on that second day, and it was a giant, and it went in the net, and then just that pure, like, emotional experience that I had done it just ran through my body, and that image went through my head when I woke up and when I went to bed, and 10 times through the day. It was just that one fish. It was that 10th fish. And when I caught that last final 3-pounder, I just grabbed it. It was in the box, in the live well. I threw my little one out and I was back up fishing. And I never got that. Still after I had that and I got to settle down, I thought, I think I just did it. I still wasn't happy that I'd done it. I wanted that 5-pounder, that 6-pounder, that fish that just sealed my fate, and I was definitely in. So that big feeling was actually that fish. But when it come to that stage, I still never just gave up. You know, there was my clock said on my GPS 4:45, and I was fishing, you know, 20 metres up from the start line casting, hoping for that bite before I ran in, you know, leaving it to both days I got in with 20 seconds to go, you know, so, you know.
But that's paid off for
and that
you
has
in
paid,
the past.
it's paid off for me all year, and I know there was just no way I could be happy. I knew I had about 12 pounds. I knew I'd probably done it, but that's when a lot of people would maybe back off and relax, where I just never did. I never did until my key tag was in the net.
Right. That was cool. What this year, you know, from start to finish, you kind of leaving off with Ross Barnett. It was kind of exciting going home. You know, tell me about that homecoming and what it brought you into this year, your mental side, your mental state, and you know, what was your common theme for the year?
Last year was definitely I had some of the roughest times of my entire life. I went through so many different emotions where giving up was such it was the easiest option. You know, giving up and going home was a high option. You know, low on. I had no money. I hadn't made a check all year. Everything was going against me, and you know, this is where a lot of my year changed. Is back then when I came home right before Ross Barnett. You know, throughout my life, I've been told that, you know, making a living through fishing alone was impossible, and I'd never be able to do it. From way back from when I was in school, and then right up to a month before Ross Barnett, I had people told me that I was living a pipe dream. It was never going to happen. I was in over my head. It was impossible. I was on a holiday. That made me so mad that, you know, when I wanted something so bad and was putting so much into it, and to hear someone say that, that actually gave me the strength right up from when I was young. From those negative people, they actually pushed me really hard to want to prove them wrong. And I never knew how to draw strength off the positive people and the people that were supporting me until this year. And that was a big change. And when I went in and I made my first ever 12 cut in a Bassmaster event at Ross Barnett, it basically, you know, I felt unstoppable from then. I knew that I was meant to be there, and holding that bass up on that final day in front of that crowd, weighing in front of Bass Pro shops, that pretty much solidified in my mind that this is where I'm meant to be and that I belong there. And then rolling out from that, every negative person in my entire life never got a millisecond of thought ever again. And then I drew from the positive people in my life, and everyone that was pushing me and was telling me that I can do it. I learnt to draw from them, and no negative thoughts or negative people were then a part of my life, and all the positive side of things rolled over. So going home and seeing my family and my sponsors after coming forth and making a check, which was huge, you know, after having $0 in the account, and then I just pushed through into 2014. So that Ross Barnett was a huge player in my whole life to just give me that confidence that I belonged, and then learnt to draw from all the positive things in my life rolling into 2014.
Yeah, I know. I know there's a lot of positive people in your life. I know some of them personally. But point them out, call them out. Start with Chris George.
Yeah.
What I mean, the support they give you, you know, just from a mental side, I see. But call them out. Who all do you appreciate?
It would be really hard to actually name everyone, and the people out there really, they know that I think of them, and they know they've been a part of them. But you know, from the start, there's guys like Steve Morgan who had a dream that he could start tournaments in Australia and eventually one day build an Australian fisherman up to make the Bassmaster Elites. That was in 1999, and I started fishing in 2000. And so his dream was for that to happen, and I actually was the one person that actually did it, you know. So like Steve Morgan has been a big part of my career, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him and him having a dream of actually creating that. But right through my whole career, I've had John Schofield, Tim Morgan. They were early heroes that taught me a lot about the mental side of the game. And, you know, Tim taught me how to have fun while I'm fishing, you know, not being so serious. And it's not, you know, and that has always been a big part of my fishing, is I've always loved being out there and I've always had fun while I'm fishing. And it was hard for me to do that over the last 4 years because I was so out of my comfort zone, and I'm versing. I got thrown to the wolves, you know, so it's hard to have fun when you're in a pack of wolves and you're trying to compete with them. So, you know, getting that confidence back and stuff, I would start to actually have fun on the water, and that's when I think I can be, you know, I can be more competitive when I start to do that, and that's where I'm getting to. But, you know, my cousin, Chris George, you know, we've been best friends since I can remember. We've fished together, hunted together, and all my mates, and then Chris, chasing his dream now as a professional boxer, taking on the world biggest. He's taken on everything head on. Him doing what he has done gave me a massive drive to do what I did over the last month, and I've kind of thrown it back to him now, and we talk to each other week in, week in about the mental side of things, physical. He's helped me huge on the physical, the food side of things, and so I've treated this like any other athlete sport, just like I'm going into a fight, and that's how I actually think about when I fish, is I'm going into a fight, and if you're not the guy that worked the hardest and trained the hardest and ate right, you're going to lose and you're going to get hurt. And I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that trained harder and wanted it more, and taken that aspect from Chris as a boxer, which is one of the toughest sports in the world, into fishing has been a huge part. And then I think I've helped him a lot in the motivation, the mental game and stuff like that. So we talk back and forwards all the time. And then I've got so many people in the States, Fred and Julie, yourself has been a huge, Fred and Julie, Gary Boyd at the very start, he was the only contact I had in America, and he took me under his wing and let me stay with him in California. And then I was kind of lost after that, and there were so many points where I was so close to going home and so close to giving up and thinking it was done, and then someone would step in and give me that drive and motivation that I needed to just push a little bit further, and that's been you and Fred and Julie, and
I'll take you off the spot on that one. That was kind of mean, as far as pointing people out.
Yeah.
But you did hit on the mental side and the physical side and all of that. People think you go out fishing.
Yeah.
And there's so much more to it, and what I admired about you this year is you really paid attention to every single component, from the physical to the mental to the preparation to the hours on the water. Yeah. I've never seen anybody spend as many hours on the water as I've seen you this year. But go kind of hit those points.
Yeah.
And what you do. I know you do CrossFit. So
yeah.
Kind of.
Well, for me, what happened coming into this year is I said, okay, basically I want to do it Kevin Van Dam. I want to be the best that there is. And all of these guys over here, they have at least 30 to 40 years experience of largemouth bass on me. And I can never, ever get that back off them. I can't get the 40 years that they've had catching. So I put down, what can I do to make up that massive, deficit that their lifetime of largemouth and smallmouth fishing has. And I really looked at golf and what Tiger Woods had done for golf, and other sports that weren't considered a big physical sport or mental sport, and you could do whatever you wanted and still play. And I took that into my everyday schedule and drove it into fishing. And I believe I can change the mindset that people have of fishing, and it will change where you need to be 100% on your physical and mental strength in years to come. It's what golf did, and Tiger Woods changed golf. So for me, I tried to make up on every single little thing that I could that those guys weren't. And one of them, and I talked to Casey Stoner about, and he said that from his point of view, that he saw the physical side of things was a massive step for me, and I 100% believe it. Last year, 2013, I was eating whatever was easy and whatever was available, and I wanted to go to bed, and I would hit walls through the day where I was tired, and you were lazy, and you weren't picking up outfits or fishing the way you were, and then you were just constantly tired days on the water. You didn't want to get up. Then from being physically fit, working on your core strength, and eating right, I have so much energy throughout the day that I was ready to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'm ready to get off the water at dark. And I just saw such huge differences. Just from having one bad meal, the next day I'd feel tired, and that just made me say, okay, this is the real deal. I need to be working 100% on my fitness, my health, and then the mental game. And you've been a great help in a lot of the books that I've read, the Mind Gym, a lot of the sporting books, and reading the guys that have made it. And like you say, look at someone that's got what you've got or has done what you want to do and learn from them. Learning the hard way kind of sucks, which I've done a lot through my life, where when you can talk to someone or read about someone is the best in the world at their sport, and I've been lucky that I've hang around champions like Casey Stoner, that's a world champion, he can tell me, you're going to look out for this, you need to be doing this. And when someone speaks like that, I listen and take it in. And the fitness, physical, mental, and then techniques, and then putting the time in studying, pre-study, you know, up until 12 o'clock at night, looking at maps, looking at the weights, looking at pre-tournaments and stuff. And biggest thing we had was having no nicks in my line ever. And if I thought there was a nick in my line, it would show every time through a tournament. And through this year, there were nicks in my line, and I fixed them straight away.
Now, nicks in your line. Let's go back to that.
We talked about if you're a fisherman and you got a nick in your line, you got a lot on. That's a big deal. So you've got a cut in your fishing line when you're fishing. You'd be crazy if you let someone nick your line and then you cast. And we've talked about this over. I go off this in my entire life now, and I don't want to have any nicks in my line, no matter what I go into. And each time I saw something that needed fixing, which was a nick in my line, I'd fix it, get it done, make it better. And all of that came down to the Arkansas River. And I even had nicks in my line up until Champlain that I fixed, that just slight slip-ups that will never, ever happen again. And the good part about, you know, learning the hard way is you'll never, ever do it again. You know, that's that when you learn the tough way. But at the Arkansas River, when I went into that tournament, when I was fishing, I knew in my head, and I could say to myself, there are no nicks in my line. And I knew that, and that gave me so much confidence that I was doing the right things, and that confidence is what got me through.
Right. The Australian nation, Bass Australia nation, is this a coincidence that this all came about the same time? You're about to make the Elite Series. Explain it to me, because I'm still kind of unfamiliar with what it is. But
it's a good thing, you know. Like BASS have aligned with Australia now, and we have Australian tournaments. And for me, this would have been, you know, a dream come true back in Australia, because it has really given someone that wants something bad a path to actually making the Bassmaster Classic and the Elites, where you know, the way I made it, it was a stepping stone to give you a taste of it as a co-angler, and then really you're on your own. You know, it's like whether you want to pursue it or not is up to you. So it's good that, you know, we really want to give America an understanding of how big tournament fishing is in Australia, and that we've got some great fishermen. And for me, to make the top 100 guys in the world is a huge deal for Australia. You know, we've shown that, you know, in each sport in Australia, we always have one or two really good athletes that are right at the top all the time, and tournament fishing in history has never been one of them. And it's a crazy feeling to think that I've hopefully started something and given some footsteps and a pathway to someone that has a dream, to show them that if they want it, they can come and get it if they want.
Yeah, I hear everybody's petitioning ESPN, and there's all kinds of excitement for next year.
Yeah, like for years they haven't been playing the Bassmasters on pay TV in Australia. And you know, when I drew Fred Rombanis in 2009 at the US Open, is when I looked down the list and I saw Fred Rombanis. I said, that's the guy that won $100,000 on a frog. That's how I knew him, because Bassmasters played back then, and that's what gave me the dream, is watching all of that, watching these guys fish for a living and reading Bassmaster magazines. But the TV show was a big deal, and they haven't played it in Australia for a lot of years. So there's a big petition, hopefully, to get it happening back in Australia, and hopefully one day I'll be fishing on it.
Good. Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Well, before we're going to get into some Facebook questions, because big following on Facebook, and a lot of people had a lot of questions. But one last question: kids wanting to follow in your footsteps back in Australia, and you get a lot of that. Hey, I want to do what you did. Well, if you had a few pieces of advice for them, what would those pieces of advice be?
That's a tough one, but there's so many different things that I'd love to say, but definitely don't listen to anyone that tells you it can't be done, because you can do it, and if you want it bad enough, you can do it. So definitely chase your dream and follow your dreams. And if you want to do something bad enough, you can do it. Fishing wise, I'd definitely say enjoy it. You know, don't take it too serious back in Australia. Enjoy it with your friends and enjoy the fishing out there, and take slow steps, you know, all the way, and you know, don't try and put too much pressure on yourself to make it happen and get sponsors and stuff like that. So if I was younger, I would have liked to have someone just to, you know, it wasn't until Tim Morgan really took me under his wing and just showed, we just had fun on the water all the time, and I stopped thinking about how important it was to win that tournament and stuff like that, and I started having fun. That's when it really started to happen for me. But you know, the biggest thing is just enjoy your fishing and chase your dreams, and don't let anyone tell you it can't be done, because it can be done.
You've got a huge Facebook following. I know as soon as you got off the water, and as soon as they announced that you were in the elites, your Facebook blew up, your phone blew up. Everybody's been following you, and what you did was kind of cool. And ask some of your followers, you know, just to throw some questions at you. So I was going to go through a few of these questions on Facebook and give them to you, and see what you think. One of Ben Keevers wants to know, are you ever going to return to Australia and compete in ABTs?
That's a good one. You know, I'd love to be home one day and you know, go and fish a tournament or two, but my plans are to be staying in America competing on the Bassmaster Elite Series. But certainly in the off season, and if I ever get home, I'd love to come to a tournament and jump in it and stuff like that. But plans are to be living in America fishing the Bassmaster Elites.
Okay. Now Rob Gaydon, he says, now that you've made the elites, have you set new goals in regards to finishing position? And that's a good question, because you've only started.
Yeah.
I mean, qualifying for the elites is just your starting point. What are your goals?
It's funny, that's a good question, because, you know, my whole life I've been like, okay, I want to fish ABT as a pro when I was fishing as a co-angler. So I fished as a co-angler, then I fished as a pro in ABT, and then when I started fishing as a pro, I said I want to win the grand final, or I want to win Angler of the Year. So then I fished and fished for 5 years, and I won Angler of the Year. Then when I won Angler of the Year, I need to win the grand final now to go to America. You know, that's my big thing. And then it took almost 10 years. It took 10 years to win the grand final. 2009, I won the grand final. Okay, I want to do well in a tournament in America. Went to the US, fished the US Open, and you know, as you set goals and you make them, then new ones obviously come. But like for me, the Elite Series was a massive hurdle. But you know, in my head, I want to be world champion. Obviously, that's the main goal. You know, I've imagined myself holding up that Bassmaster Classic trophy, and you know, being I don't want to be one of the top 100 bass anglers in the world. I want to be, you know, world champion. So obviously, the next goal will be, you know, a goal that would be huge for me would be to win Rookie of the Year in the Bassmaster Elites, and it's going to be a huge, strong field. So that's obviously a massive goal. But you know, for me, anything is a win from now on. I will never have that kind of pressure, because that one day, that one moment to actually make it into the Bassmaster Elites was the thing that allowed me to now, you know, push on and chase those goals. But yeah, obviously the goal now, Angler of the Year, and to one day be world champion. But I've got a lot ahead of me to get to that stage.
Yeah, you say Rookie of the Year. They're no rookies.
I know.
You're not scraping with a bunch of rookies, are you? One of them. Hey Carl, what's your most favorite Miller rod if you had to pick only one to use?
That's a good one. You know, back in Australia, and the rod that has converted over to here has been my Bassmaster. Bassmaster Medium has won me a lot of money and got me to Australia. So Bassmaster with a Corrado or a Chronarch core, anything Shimano on that is one of my favourite outfits, because I still use it over here today for spinner baits, jerk baits, and you know, so many other techniques. It's my favourite rod when I've got a Bassmaster in my hand. I know it's good, but to be honest, as long as it's a Miller rod, I know I've got the best. So if there's a Miller rod Shimano in my hand, I've got the best, and I don't care what model it is, as long as it's a Miller rod.
Right. Mick Floyd, are you doing another run of your shirts? I didn't get it one of the first ones. I thought I'd got one in the mail.
That was huge. The support that I got from the jerseys we did was a huge thing for me financially to get me back here to start with, and then just to see the support that I had. So we're definitely going to do it again. We're hoping to have it exactly like my jersey from this year, and we're going to make it like this is the jersey I wore when I made the Bassmaster Elites, and we're going to change it up. Hopefully have the Elite Series badge on it, and my motto, whatever it takes. So it's going to be. We're working on it right now, and hopefully we can get it happening in the near future.
Okay. Johnny Jenkins says, how did you go about attaining all the amazing sponsor support you have? How much did you pursue them, and how much did they pursue you? And that seems to be a common question for pros, and clear up some of the misconceptions there.
It's a good one. I've been really lucky in my life. I don't know if you call it lucky, but in my life, I don't think I've ever once chased a sponsor up. I'm just trying to think. There's not a sponsor on my jersey right now that I actually come to them, and I think that's a big thing for the young guys in Australia and stuff right now. I tried to let my fishing do the talking, and my results, and the way I presented myself, and I never ever talked it up or never said what I was going to do. I just tried to do it. And way back when I was 15, Bassman was the first one to approach me, and then the next one were Miller Rods, and they were two companies that I would buy their gear to try and use, and I never ever took on a sponsor just because they offered to sponsor me or anything. It had to be, I've always prided myself, I use the best of the best. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't using the best. And so, I'd only ever take anything on that I loved to use and that I wanted to use and that I'd be proud to represent. And so pretty much throughout my life, every single sponsor has actually approached me, and when the right one has come, a big one for me was Hobie Fishing. When they approached me, that was a company that, I looked up to and was a great big company in the fishing industry. And when they approached me 2 years ago, and then they've stayed with me over the last couple of years when I wasn't, it seemed like an impossible dream. And then for a big company like that to have belief in me and get behind me was a big deal. So I'd definitely say try not to chase up sponsors as much as let your fishing do the talking, let your results do the talking, and let them come to you. And when a company comes to you and you're proud to put them on your shirt and represent them, then it'll be a long-lasting relationship. So you don't want sponsors where you're dropping in and off. A lot of my sponsors that I'm wearing now I've had since I was 15, 16 years old, and they're still going strong today. So definitely proud of that.
That's good. Eddie Jabreen, and we kind of touched on this one a little bit, but he says, with everything on the line going into day 2, and given you were still fishless at midday, what strategies did you employ to remain focused and keep going to the end with a double upgrade?
That's a good one. For me, it was a huge confidence thing. Last year and over the last 3 years, when I was flipping something that I'd never done before in my whole life and I had to learn, if I picked a flipping rod up and I started to flip, especially if I hadn't caught a fish on it during practice, I was just trying to find them, I wasn't 100% confident that I was doing the right thing, whether that was the right outfit I was using, the right ratio reel or the right line. And so where I'd grown as an angler and over everything was I had one fish in my well, and it was 12 o'clock and my trolling motor was dying. I had 16 Miller rod Shimano outfits on my deck, and I'd gone through every one of them, and I opened my rod locker up and I pulled a square freak out, which is a square bill rod, and when I was throwing it, I knew that was the exact rod and reel I needed, that was the exact square bill, and I was using it exactly how it had to be used if that's what they were eating. I had no doubt in my mind that if that's what was the deal, I was doing it right. and that confidence was a big thing for me. That rod and reel I hadn't used that for the entire practice, and weeks leading up, all those weeks, I had never used it, and I was able to pull it out and fish it confidently, and that's what put 2 of my big fish in at the start. Then towards the end of the day, when I needed those 2 upgrades, I was using a spinning outfit with a robo worm. I'd only had a few bites on it, but I had the confidence that what I was doing was the right thing to do. And that's only come from just years and years of experience in the last 4 years here, and the ups and downs and all the things. That's just the amount of fish that I've caught over the last 4 years. I think it all come down to confidence and knowing that what I was doing was going to be right no matter what I was doing.
When you fish tournaments, you know, it gets so intense, and you get kind of drawing back on your practice and doing the things that you think you need to be doing, and then some of the times you just forget that you're just a fisherman.
Yeah.
And you're a good fisherman, and I think that's probably, is that kind of where you drew to just pick up a random?
Yeah, definitely. Just sometimes you just, you know, in practice, I get so many bites all the time. You know, I'm always on something. I can find something, and if you draw too much on the things that you learnt and not look at the conditions of like every single time, guaranteed, the weather's going to change, the water's going to drop, something's going to happen. It's not ever easy, and the fish are always changing, and I've learnt to fish the conditions. I can feel, okay, which direction the wind's blowing, what's the water doing, what's the water temperature, what has the weather done, what are these fish going to do, and I've been able to try and stay ahead of them rather than being behind and chasing them. So it's been a big thing, is learning the habits of largemouth and smallmouth and knowing what they do. Like the temperature dropped to something I'd never ever been on the Arkansas River when it had been that cold in my life. So I had no idea what they're going to do. So I had to draw from past experiences and think, what are these fish going to do? And that, you know, just I think keeping a cool mind and staying settled and not panicking. You know, the trolling motor battery dying on me may have been a good thing because it slowed me down. I idled in, I didn't panic. My power pole saved me big time. And 2 years ago, they cost me because I didn't have them on my boat. And I fished a lot of sight fishing tournaments, and they were a huge reason why I had some massive bombs. And 2 years later, I had them on my boat, and they saved me.
But you give your sponsors a lot. You know, I've noticed over the course of the year, you go way over and above. Now that you're an Elite Series angler, you're gonna. I mean, the stage is huge.
Yeah.
You know, this is no longer Carl Jocumsen's Facebook.
Yeah.
It's the big world stage. So as you go into your sponsor search, I'm sure that's gonna play heavy.
Yeah, definitely.
On the value.
I try to give back to my sponsors as much as I can this year, and the sponsors that get behind me and support me for 2015 are going to get more and beyond of what they can ever imagine. So I can actually really show what I can do and promote my sponsors on, like you said, the world stage, which is huge. So I'm looking forward to next year and representing my sponsors in the best way possible and biggest way I'll ever be able to do it.
Right. How's it going to be another 5th year away from your family? I know Chris and Maddie, your best friends, your cousins, your sister had a baby this year. The stress that it takes. Are you going home soon?
Yeah, I'm hoping to go home in the middle of October in the next 4 weeks, and I haven't seen my family since December last year, and it has been the toughest part of this whole journey. Is in my whole life, my family is everything. My friends, there probably wasn't a day I went without Chris and I hanging out doing something, and my sister is my best friend. I got friends from school, hunting and fishing every single day. That was my life, and then for that to just be gone, people don't realise, I don't think, how tough it is when you do really well in a tournament or you do really bad and you get in your truck, and then you're not coming back to anyone, you're not coming back to talk to anyone about it and stuff, and that has definitely been the roughest part for me. But it's kind of at the same time I'm doing it for them, and I'm drawing so much strength from them. They've always tried to talk on the phone as much as possible, and it's the sacrifices that I've had to make, and you know, when people say you're living the dream and stuff, and I believe I am. I love what I do, and I wouldn't trade it for anything else. But the sacrifices that I've had to make to have those words, living the dream, said are pretty major, which, you know, in the family and friends side of thing has definitely been the hardest part. But when I go home in the middle of October and see everyone, that's when it's going to be worth it. That's the biggest thing I'm looking forward to when I step off that plane back in Australia and go.
You think there'll be a smile on your face?
I don't think I'll be. I don't think I'll stop smiling for a long time. You know, my sister's having her first baby right on my birthday. My 30th is coming up this week. Chris is fighting for a world title. There's so many exciting things happening in my life right now, and so many positive things. I'm just excited about the future and just can't wait to get home, see everyone. And you know, when I see that stuff on my Facebook of when the word inspiration gets mentioned, then that's my job is done. You know, that's what makes me so happy. And I think if I can show people, I think I have shown people that no matter what brick walls get put up in front of you, and no matter what people say and how impossible it might seem, if you want something and you want it bad enough, then you can get it. And hopefully my journey can inspire people to take on what they want to do and live out their dream, and you know, and take it on. So you know, that's a big part of what I want to do.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, a lot of people make the elites, or have made the elites over the years. I don't think they're too excited about you coming fish with them, are they? Or they shouldn't be, in my opinion. You're the last guy that they want moving on up with your heart and desire and all the stuff you're bringing.
Yeah, I think I don't think I honestly have been able to really, you know, show my full potential until now, and I think I've been sitting on about level 3 or 4 going into this year, and now that I'm versing them guys, I got to take it to 10, or I know I got thrown with the wolves. I'm getting like that, whatever's triple that now, and I've got to step my game way up to where it's at. But I believe, yeah, now I feel like I can get started.
Is it your lifetime? I mean, this is it. This is your career.
Yeah. This is what.
25 years now, we'll be watching.
Yeah,
Carl as an old timer, fishing the elites.
Yeah, I want to, you know, I want to be everything motivational and stuff that I listen to, and and in my mind, you know, it is always, if you can touch the bar, then it's too low. And for me, I want to be the best. You know, I want to be the best in Australia, and here, you know, I'm fishing against the best, but you know, I don't want to be mediocre. I want to be the best there is, and my motto is whatever it takes, and I'm gonna have to step it up and do whatever it takes to make that happen. But the best part about it is I think I've gotten over the biggest hurdle, and I can actually breathe now and relax a little, not relax, but enjoy the ride a lot more than what I have, and enjoy the journey than what it has been. Is because I've been so out of my comfort zone, it's been hard to relax and enjoy it and soak it up. And now that I think I believe I belong, and this is what I'm going to do, I can enjoy the journey and see what the future holds.
You certainly earned it, and so many of the Elite Series guys, you know, they talk with me, you know, and they say he's the real deal, you know, and they've known it. They've been waiting for your arrival. Yeah. I think, and so many of those guys have been so kind to you, you know, Mike McClellan, and Brandon Palaniuk, and all the guys. They're waiting on you.
Yeah.
You know, I guess you're here, huh?
Yeah.
I kind of put you on the spot earlier about pointing out individuals, but tell me just real quick your sponsors, and who they are, what they mean to you, and then we'll wrap this up.
Obviously, without my sponsors, you know, I wouldn't be here, and you know, I appreciate every single one of them, and the people that, you know, my supporters as well. But Hobie Fishing has been a huge part of my last 2 years, and I hope to continue with them, you know, with years to come. Miller Rods, you know, everybody knows that he's been a massive part of my career from the very start, and not only through building me the best rods there is, but being a really good mental coach and supporter, and being there and coming over and fishing with me. So yeah, Miller Rods has been a big one for me for many years. Skeeter Yamaha, they gave me my first shot when I first came over here. Without them, I wouldn't have had a boat, and they believed in me when I went in there at 2009 and said, oh, thinking about coming over and fishing. And their next response was, well, if you do, we'll have a boat here with you, but for you, ready to go. And that there blew me away and gave me a massive boost to be like, okay, I'm gonna have the setup to do it. And you know, I hope for a long lifetime relationship with Skeeter Yamaha, because you know, I've always been really loyal to my sponsors, and when they look after you like that, I hope to be with them forever. So Skeeter Yamaha have been huge. Shimano have been massive for me. They've been with me from the start as well. I think I was 16 when Shimano first started supporting me, and every single year they've been behind me, and right up until now. They had brand new reels sent over with Ian Miller, and made sure I had the right reels going into the Arkansas River. So that sort of support is just awesome. Bassman Spinnerbaits was my original sponsor when I was young, and they used to build me my own custom spinnerbaits, you know, for me. I'd ask them, you know, I want 5 strands of blue and 3 strands of scale leading into a tournament, and they would build it for me. And still today, there was packages coming in the mail leading up to the Arkansas River with new swim jigs and spinnerbaits that I'd asked for, with orange blades, with every single thing. And you know, having support like that is incredible. Hydrowave and Amphibia, and excited about Hydrowave Australia. You know, you guys have helped me, you know, be able to develop such a cool thing and bring it back to Australia, which we're super proud of. And Jace Wilhelm back in Australia, he supported me from the start back in AFC days, and told me, you know, there's no doubt I could do it. He had a lot of belief in me and still supports me today. So Hydrowave and Amphibia have been really one of the first major American companies that supported me, which I'm super proud of. And then, you know, I've got some guys like Brad's Boat Sales, Power Pole, Power Pro, and just guys that have supported me with product, and you know, just got things on my boat. Brad's Boats, they make my boat bulletproof, you know, and that one right at the end of the season, the battery charger bank went out, but up until then, nothing has ever gone wrong with my boat, and it's because they make it bulletproof. So very happy to have those guys rigging it out. Skeeter Australia, obviously at the very start, got me over here. It was called the Skeeter Trip of a Lifetime, and the guys at Skeeter Australia got me over here and got me introduced to Skeeter America and all that. So there's so many people I need to thank. It's crazy. And you know, obviously other than sponsors, just the people that have, you know, helped me and got me over the line. And when things were at my worst, I got to draw from them, and everyone knows who they are. And I don't want to list them all, because if I forgot someone, I'd never forget someone, but if I didn't mention it, I'd feel terrible. But there's a laundry list of people that I am very grateful to have in my life, and have had since I was young, and have got me to the stage I'm at right now. So I just want to say thank you to all them.
Good luck.
Thanks.
You got a tall hill to climb.
I've got a big year coming up.
Yeah, you do.
I'm excited about it. It's going to be good.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.